Hello and welcome to Insights Episode 4. This is not a special War League game. This is just a standard replay from the Replays channel. And as such, we will be using the standard rules here. No switching over to the other team. No checking how much company is left. Certainly no fog of war. For this game, I'm going to be watching the allies. So I'm going to go ahead and hop over. And we'll get a good look at possibly either what went wrong or what went right. The other two games I know I watched the Axis primarily, the other two non-War League games, so this will be the first time we are watching the Allies play. Allies, of course, are, I think, slightly stronger in many ways than the Axis. That being said, the problem with Axis is that their units are generally more reliable than Allied units. The Allies have a few special abilities and special tools that they can utilize that give them a distinct advantage. But when it comes to the general layout of companies, the Axis have much better tools. A very strong opening start from Clone, and you can see how all the Allied players have positioned themselves leftward into the hill, following Clone's charge through. And Stormtrout looks like he took a lot of the brunt of the huge missed opportunity. If both of these Kangaroo carriers had run through these Shreks, very reliably all these Shreks could be dead right now. Of course, they did pick up a vehicle kill, and hopefully quite a bit more. Is that a captain retreat, or is he just already pulling a lieutenant? I don't even know why he brought the lieutenant if he just plans on... I mean, the guy took one bullet of damage. Not the greatest decision, I think. If you're going to have a rush, I would strongly suggest you prepare for the unit to die. If you have the level of veterancy concern for a unit that you see him take a single hit point of damage, don't bring him in the rush. But as I was saying, what I was trying to get at was when you have two vehicles for crush, the extra bit of movement on the units, the forced movement, makes crushing 3 times as easy. So running over a consolidated blob like that with 2 Kangaroo carriers at the same time, you've got to drive through 6-7 guys being able to do that. And overall, what a fantastic strong start by the Allies. They've completely neglected the right side of the map, but of course the Axis are going to be forced to ignore that disadvantage that the Allies have created for quite some time, because the Allies have such a strong foothold up front that to start sending back cappers would potentially help hurt morale and would potentially lose them this upfront battle, which is the critical battle right now. You got to get them off the hill, which the Allies are, luckily for the Axis, the Allies are just willingly doing that. They have all these units on. I don't know what the Firefly is doing on. That seems like a massive waste. Smart idea trying to get the triangulation up immediately, but the Axis smelled it. So, yeah, when you earn territory, depending on the map, don't ever give it up. You know, in this situation, this hill is worth so much more than any other piece of land on the map. And the Allies have no reason to give it up. And you can see the way the Axis are very clearly concerned about trying to get up onto this hill. They are not doing it because they are expecting a fight for it. So the Firefly clearly came on for the King Tiger. But just because your enemy has a King Tiger on, I don't think that means that you need a hard counter for it quite yet. The downside to this is dedicated counter to the King Tiger can actually make the King Tiger valuable. as long as the Firefly has pretty much nothing else to engage on, which we haven't seen yet, there's no medium tanks for the Firefly to participate in the battle against. The Firefly is the bigger liability here, and you can kind of see the way that this is already taking place. The Axis are 100% being maneuvered all over against because of this Firefly call-in.
Enemy unit down.
Look at the way the Allies have already lost all map control. They haven't lost any battles yet. Every engagement has been an Allied victory, a striking Allied victory. And yet the Allies are now territorialists.
Vehicle knocked out.
They are being walked all over from every direction. This is the worst way to throw an advantage, and that is by not trying to fight. And there's no combat going on right now. It's just the Axis. Okay, Will is fighting very clearly. He is breaking Whiskey Jack on the left. The rest of the map is folding. If the Axis are smart, what they're going to do is they're going to kill this stuff and they're going to go straight for a spawn. Because coming on right now from every player is going to try to be the saving grace units. The Allies have made a big mistake, and what the Allies are probably going to do is they're going to call on a bunch of really good units to try and undo that mistake. And so if you're prepared for that, you're going to get the jump on them. You're going to hit them before they know what's coming, before they're in position. Is this machine gun turned? It is turned, but unfortunately this lieutenant has fire up. The lieutenant's going to die just by running straight into the MG. That's one of the problems with fire up, is that you actually take tons and tons of damage still from machine guns because your units don't get suppressed right away. It's why the 30 cal in general does more damage than a 42, because the 42 is going to suppress you instantly. Suppression is going to hurt how much damage you're doing. Terrible King Tiger usage. I don't know why he's brought it next to this church. He does know better. Rocky is a very experienced player. He understands that Piats are the biggest killer of the King Tiger. Maneuvering it near this church where there's no chance that you could ever fight the Piats, and the Piats will just continuously walk over you, is quite the disaster. And if it wasn't for these Piats that have been on, I think the Axis would have just totally wiped the Allies off the field. But luckily, between Clone's Commando Piats and Stuart's Sapper Piats, we have a very different situation going on. A Panther from Stormtrout, that's going to actually be pretty useful against what the Allies have at the moment. There's still quite a few tanks. Stormy's going to try and be very fair about the current game. He's not going to leave a useless pop tank sitting around. Oh, and a damaged engine hit. What is it doing though? I don't get it. There's got to be some reason. He must have like a bugged out mouse or something, because I just keep seeing this thing turning around, showing its rear, and doesn't make any sense. And this is the clear reason why you wouldn't want a Panther, is because it's not going to do anything to hold the territory or keep the Allies from progressing. Panthers are very, very good at getting pot shots. And of course, what they're designed for is killing Shermans. But when it comes to actually stopping Allied advances, that puny gun that shoots, and yet another Axis tank. All three players have driven Axis tanks into this region to get hit by Piats. I wish I understood what it is that's keeping the Axis from realizing these Piats are here. Any one of the players could have mentioned it, explained what a serious train these Piats have been on Axis tank health. But yeah, nobody gets scared when you have 10, 15 soldiers in an engagement of a Panther gun, because it's just not going to change the engagement. Is this a 42? Oh, this is the Terror. The Terror 42 has been picked up. So the Allies seem to have been recovered. I think this is mostly because of the King Tiger seemingly bugging out, going on a joyride or something. Had the King Tiger slowly pushed up directly into the Axis, considering the Firefly went down and directly into the Allies. So considering the Firefly went down and there was no other AT guns on the field, that King Tiger should have been stopped by nothing. Some infantry needed to push the Piats away, and that would have been it. And what a headache this one Sherman has been. Oh no. Whiskey is the only one that seems to have any infantry on the Axis side. I'm curious to understand why that might be. Stormtrap must have had a plan with his Panther when he first conjured it up, but at this point, it definitely feels like this was the mistake. This was a mistake. Alright, finally some Axis infantry from a player other than Whiskey. The Allies are starting to feel more comfortable branching out. You can usually tell very easily how comfortable a team is with their current on-field presence just by how much they're willing to spread out. The less spread out a team is, the less comfortable they are with the units they have on the field. And so what that means is, when you run into an enemy that has 50 units on one screen, or 50 population on one screen, that means you can probably walk all over them, because they don't think that they can beat you unless they get all of their stuff together. Of course, don't attack them where they are, attack them where they're not, but that's when you want to start moving around the battlefield and outmaneuvering what little they have that is willing to leave the core region. And these vehicles likely have capping. Can't say for sure, but it looks like Will's plan is to use light vehicles to go around the map, harass, and cap out the Axis. It's interesting to see the return of emplacements as well. I don't think emplacements other than the mortar emplacement are ever a good idea. Probably the easiest way to get a gun killed. Maybe AT emplacements, just because the 17-pounder is just as vulnerable anyways. Like I know how to say English words. I'm an American. Now, of course, while the Axis are allowing the Allies to build up and take their time with the game, the Axis are repairing the King Tiger, and this is probably something lingering in the Allied mind. But this seems like a trade-off that they're willing to take, and I, based off of how that King Tiger was performing before, I would certainly take that trade as well. Assume the enemy player is going to play the exact same way that they played before, because that's just how most players operate, and based off of that, don't concern yourself with finishing it off. It's actually probably a pop sink and a negative for the enemy. Instead, concern yourself with building up against the things that were working against you. And in this case, that means what they should have been doing is getting more screening units off on the right, because that's the current Axis success has been in swooping around the map. This is a rather large field. The Axis have lots and lots of mobility. Ooh, and the Axis mortar hit the Puma and damaged its engine. That is honestly kind of embarrassing. It absolutely happens, you know, don't get me wrong, but just the mortars didn't really need to be shooting anyways in that situation. I think Stormtrout is making a pretty... I mean, this is a fantastic flank. I think Stormtrout is making a pretty important move here, coming in from behind. As long as the Axis are following up from this side as well, which it looks like they are, this is going to hopefully break the Allies right now. All this emplacement is going to all of these emplacements are going to mean nothing if the Axis just go around and break them from behind. Now, I have had discussions in the past with players who say spawn camping and killing your units as they come out onto the battlefield is stupid. It's unfair. But, you know, generally speaking, you have to protect your spawn. In this situation, the Allies have made a pretty clear and conscious effort not to protect their spawn. They would rather sit in emplacements where it's safe than come out and meet Stormtrout in the field. And so what Stormtrout has to do is he has to force them to realize how important it is to come meet him by killing the units as they come out. That is the solution to all this emplacement spam. Just go around, fight them where they're not dug in, and generally, ooh, that Panzerschreck shot looked like it connected with the mortar half track. Generally, you're going to have a very easy time walking over emplacements because of that. This really used to not be a reasonable strategy back in the day when maps were just too small that it was very, very easy to go from whatever entrenched position you had to a back cap or a spawn killing engagement. But right now, the Allied weapons are 30 to 60 seconds away, not 10 to 20 seconds away, just depending on which weapon you're talking about. So that means that this strategy is a lot more reliable. Rocky's gonna pick up the machine gun. And although Stormtrout has been forced to completely back off from the backfield, this frontal assault is finally starting to bear some fruit. Rocky's stopping in mid-range. Okay, he's gonna get in there. This is why you don't want to stack emplacements on top of each other. Now this AT gun has no ability to fight. Oh, damn. If only that machine gun was placed a little bit sooner, would have saved all those nice crossholders. Whiskey needs to get his units up here immediately to reinforce, otherwise this ground is going to be lost. And good on Stormtrout to keep the Panther lingering. It's clearly not engaged directly into the battle, but it's lingering around. And that means that the Allies can't just send their forces up to fight, because Stormtrout will immediately get back into position if they try to do that. Instead, Stu Magoo has completely left his allies behind in this middle fight to come to engage Stormtrout. And I think you can kind of tell why you wouldn't want to do that from this. Stormtrout has all the mobility. He was prepared. He's been thinking about how he would go about beating someone who comes to find him to the side here. And he is dancing around Stu Magoo's units. Stewart is taking some very heavy losses. This is probably when I should mention, though, that I don't know how much I like these teams. Stormtrout and Whiskey Jack are two excellent players. They're both probably a little bit less in practice than they usually would be. They've only been getting to play so much lately. But then Rocky is also quite good. He certainly knows his
Enemy unit down.
vanilla company of heroes, and he understands unit engagements. He's, you know, not infallible, but when it comes to Stu Magoo, Will, and Clone, I suppose the real tricky issue of this is how do you make it much better?
Enemy unit
Any
down.
swap around is going to make it mildly better, and that's it. Perhaps this is the best iteration of the teams, but in reality, that doesn't mean they're good teams. It just means, unfortunately, there's not much closer you can get. And this Panther has the potential of right now killing this next Firefly. Stu Magoo's gonna go in for the block. Nope, he's gonna miss the block.
Down.
Do these guys have Bren Button? It seems like they probably don't, given the lack of reaction by Stewart. Ooh, the Martyr reinforcement, huge miss. Oh no! Whiskey! You gotta get your unit in there. Alright, Panther's gonna try and sneak its way out. If Whiskey can get the shot. Oh, Stewart's gonna give it to him! I think if the Firefly would have kept driving, it would have gotten the other side of this. I think this is a shot blocker. But honestly, it did look like the Martyr shot through it before, so maybe that didn't matter at all. Oh, and the King Tiger died. That's a little silly, actually. It seems like the 17-pounder got it, which makes sense. The sad thing about this King Tiger dying isn't the fact that the King Tiger didn't make its money back or anything like that. In fact, I think that was a pretty successful King Tiger, and this was probably a pretty good time to get rid of it. 20 minutes in, start getting some of your other units out. I'm sure Rocky has plenty of other call-ins. But, considering a second Firefly was just killed, that probably means that the allies are running out of big-ticket anti-tank weapons. This 17-pounder, plus I reckon maybe one more, is going to be the last dedicated AT that could take out a King Tiger with any ease. Otherwise, they would be left with the 57s and probably Piats with bread and button, which is just not going to be easy. Notice also how Clone has not found the opportunity to put up his triangulation yet. Because of all of this heavy-duty fighting in the bottom right portion of the map by Stormtrout, that pressure, I believe, has stopped Clone from being able to get to this side of the map. And by completely denying that part of the map off from Clone, that means no triangulation. The Axis don't even have to worry about looking for it. Now, of course, I think this is a serious flaw in triangulation. The Axis don't know that. And so that means even though the Allies are not able to get triangulation up, it still has the same amount of impact in terms of wasting the Axis's time and getting the Axis to utilize units such as bikes when they normally wouldn't want to. Huge waste of a stormtrooper's, not stormtrooper, just a Shrek squad. I don't think he thought about it too much running that in. Ooh, the Jumbo.
Enemy unit
Easily the most overrated in all of OMG mod. I think Will is discovering that right now if he hasn't already. Unfortunately, the Jumbo, despite its fantastic King Tiger armor, can still get penetrated with, sorry, not King Tiger, Jagd Panther armor. It can still get penetrated semi-reliably by a lockdown Martyr. So, you know, given that it has actually a pretty low health pool for a heavy tank, it is very vulnerable to Axis anti-tank weapons. The Pack Gun actually does really, really well against Jumbos. as long as you can back them up.
Enemy
And martyrs do
unit down.
even better. The Jumbo will never even get a shot on the martyr due to its speed. Oof, these mortars. I don't see any reason why the Axis would want to stop doing what they've been doing. Don't fight the Allies directly until you have a huge flank up. Once you have that huge flank, start coming in from as many different sides as possible and overwhelm. The Allies just keep bringing on more and more support weapons, which are going to continue to do horrible in that situation. And here comes Stormtrout's units immediately again on the flank. This will likely lead to some units pushing forward up the middle. And hopefully we'll see finally Whiskey Jack's infantry coming in from the left. I think infantry coming in from the left will be the death blow. It's hard to realize just how thin your enemy actually is sometimes. The Axis probably aren't putting it together, but, you know, looking at this map, there's no chance all this stuff couldn't completely walk all this stuff off the field. A Cromwell at less than half health and a Jumbo at less than half health are the two strongest units the Allies have right now on the field. This stuff will melt from a half-decent attack between a Panzer IV, despite the broken engine. Bring it with a broken engine, doesn't matter. Panzer IV, that blob, plus Stormtrout's Panther coming in from the side, should be able to kill every single unit the Allies have. It's just a matter of execution. And this is also why probing is so important. That's what Stormtrout has been doing all game. He has been probing at the Allies pretty regularly. When you attack, see what the enemy comes in to meet you with. Do they bring the whole blob? That's a lot of confidence, but you could probably use that against them. Do they bring one unit? Well, that probably means they feel like they're already stretched too thin, and you could pretty reliably take that ground. Right now, Stormtrout's meeting some very minimal resistance. He met that one unit, and the Jumbo, which is getting repaired, is what had to come meet him. That's not a good sign for the Allies. If you come and probe, and you find a unit that is low health and actively getting repaired, if you find that's the unit that has to come fight you, that means you're in good shape. Alright, Whiskey is doing exactly that flank. His infantry blob needs to come in. Hopefully Stormtrout is in position. This is a huge flank. I mean, this potentially could work all by himself, but he does have a lot of teammates actually too, in fact. And as soon as they get there, that's what's going to do them. I really don't like the clear lack of communication that somehow has gone on here. I mean, where is the Panther? Why is Whiskey Jack all alone? Did Whiskey Jack go in without telling his teammates he was doing that? Or did his teammates okay Whiskey Jack's incursion and then not follow up with him? These are questions that need answering. This poor guy, though, I mean, he has been fighting 3 players in the middle of all of the Allied emplacements. Alright, fantastic pack play.
Enemy unit down.
Oof. Huge hit. I suppose even though the Axis are so close to just pushing off the remaining units the Allies have, just taking whatever is up here, whatever guns are up here, and healing back up should be plenty. A little bit desperate by Clone. Oh, these are walking wounded. Nothing desperate about that. But, still interesting. It seems like he's probably not got... Oh no, he has more stuff he can bring on. Let's take a look what we've got left. Clone has 3 more call-ins. Will has 8 more call-ins. And Stumagoo has 3 more call-ins. This is some deja vu from the War League game. Will having 6 more call-ins while his teammates are both all on. Something you really got to be careful about is making sure that you are not expending your units significantly less than your allies are.
Infantry squad lost.
This is a very interesting commando incursion. Ooh, and a Yagged Panther from Whiskey Jack. Oh, and by cheating a little bit, we have discovered Whiskey's got 1 platoon left. That's pretty interesting. Obviously, since there's a Yagged Panther on, that's kind of a different story. I'm honestly very surprised to see Whiskey has managed to go through so much stuff so quickly. He's actually the closest one to being out, I believe, in the entire game. But again, the Yagd should be able to last the Axis another 10-15 minutes. Unless it lands on a mine, gets Bren buttoned in front of the 17-pounder and a few Piat squads, I don't think that thing is going down anytime soon. Nothing really to report in about at the moment, other than the fact that for some reason the Axis are just completely getting back camped out on the right side of this map. I don't somehow I wasn't paying enough attention. I'm certain the Axis definitely weren't either. But Stuart has managed to just walk in 2 recon sections. They've now capped the Axis spawn. Given what Stuart has on the fields, this is a little batshit. A single Pigren squad could have stopped this from happening. And this also goes back to a different balance change that's going to be coming out next patch, which is that bikes will no longer be able to cap, or sorry, the Jeeps will no longer be able to cap from armor with the capping doctrine ability. And it's likely that Shrim Wagons and Kettengrads for the first time ever in OMG mod won't be able to cap either. And I think that this is actually a bit of a mistake because the fundamental problem isn't that these units can cap, it's that players aren't protecting their side caps at all. Of course, you can take any unit and get to the very back of the field without expending anything. If you don't sit a single unit in one of your territories. You have 4 territories on this map to hold. Can't spare a single Pigren? No Schwimmwagen or Kettengrad in the world has any capability of killing a unit. So as long as you just leave a single guy in there, the Schwimmwagen and the Kettengrad aren't going to do anything.
Enemy unit down.
Now that all being said, the balanced team does have to balance to what players are capable of, and if players aren't capable of holding cap, well then, you know, that is that. What a big mega bounce by the Yak Panther. You gotta love to see that. 17 pounder round just flying right off the front. Although, interestingly, he doesn't seem to care at all that the 17 exists. If you're going to sit in front of a 17 pounder, you might as well shoot at the 17 pounder. This thing is 2 shots. And I think he's shooting the Pioneers right now, to be honest. Not a success. Considering the Allies have 2 AT guns, I think running up and shooting one of those 2 is the wrong move, but that's just hindsight, you know? I mean, that Yak could have hit twice in a row, and this would have looked like a hero's play, so you might as well take the risks when you can. I'm certainly guilty of trying something as ridiculous as that out. In fact, my recent Yanked Panther play has been quite awful. Will Sniper is out. No surprise that it is coming in late. Again, deja vu is real. That being said, a late game sniper is a best game sniper. Simply because as your units, or as the enemy units thin out, their counters to the sniper become much less consistent, much less capable. So the strategy here is pretty obvious from Will. I think this one is risky as well, but I mean, this game would have been awful to have a sniper on anyways, so.
Enemy unit down.
Clone still has 1 call-in left. Stuart still has 1 call-in left. That's pretty healthy, given that they were 3 call-ins about, I want to say 10 minutes ago. That might have been a little bit sooner. Will has 5 call-ins left. As long as Will continues to do all of the frontlining, which is that is what he seems to be doing at the moment, the Allies are still in a very decent spot for winning this game. The Yak Panther doesn't seem to be getting repairs. The Axis big ticket items are all anti-tank items. Panther and Yak Panther. That does not bode well for what's on the field. There's 2 Cromwells. You hardly need a Yak Panther for that, much less a Tiger also. Although, if this AT gun is lost, that could be disastrous. I do think it was pretty critical that the Allies kept both AT guns together. There was no way you were ever going to be able to fight a Yagd and the Panther without 2 AT guns. And even then, 2 AT guns is extremely insufficient. And I believe it's pretty safe to say that's probably game. That sniper was a huge part of why I was saying the Allies have a good shot here. Unless Will's bringing on another 2 57s, I don't think they're pulling this one together. Oh, here's 57 number 1. And it's a shame to see repairs coming on in a group of 2. I don't like when you have too much repair, and Pershing as well. Okay. Whiskey Jack, paranoid, telling his teammates, stop the repairs. What if they know I'm repairing my vehicle? That would be insane. I am very scared right now. They clearly have triangulation up. While they do not have triangulation up, Whiskey Jack could not be making more of a fool of himself. I have never seen him so embarrassed in my entire life.
Annihilated.
It's just too many engineers. You can't really hold the field with engineers. They don't do anything. They don't fight. They're super pop inefficient when it comes to repairing. 3 pop repairs is actually the highest pop repair in the game now. They do repair very fast, so if you're taking into account the actual repair rates, then they're not the most inefficient. But, oh, and the 30 kill Panther has gone down. That's a big play. I said Will needed 2 AT guns to potentially have a shot here, and you know, Pershing's not an AT gun, but it's probably the next best thing. I suppose a Jackson would really be the next best thing, but Will unfortunately just doesn't have those reward units.
Enemy unit down.
And the Yagged. This is a very good opportunity. I never understand that one. There is a chance the MG glitches out, which has been happening to me pretty consistently lately, actually, so I suppose if that's what his concern is, but, you know, if the unit dies while running with the MG, it's not like the MG's going to go down on the ground, so you might as well just try to run it out of there on the off chance he gets away. I suppose there's also the other possibility that he's worried about resupply, but again, I don't think that's the case. Huge hit on the AT gun. This AT gun is very critical. Another big hit. 2 in a row is going to cost the Axis, or sorry, cost the Allies.
Enemy unit down.
Single Piat. Doesn't. D4. I'm surprised how thin the Axis are starting to look. Where is all the Axis infantry? Oh. And ideally this should be the priest. I can't imagine a reason why the priest would live here. I also can't imagine a reason why a player would probe the map with the priest.
Our forces are taking casualties.
I'm always talking about how important it is to have screening infantry, but it's just that. You want to make sure your screening infantry are infantry. Do not mistake priests for infantry. They be a pretty deadly error.
Enemy unit down.
And nothing is really coming to save this priest right now, because the Allies really don't have anything left. I think Stewart is off the field effectively, although I'm having a hard time figuring out what it is that's keeping him from getting a Stewart
Enemy
is
unit
wiped
down.
out. And a Pershing takes a big hit from the Martyr. You can considering all these engineers that are on the field and how insanely fast that they repair, it's really important that the Yag just gets up there and gets those shots in. This 17-pounder is engaged on the top side of the map, so the Axis should feel comfortable getting in there. 157 is not going to beat this Yag before the Yag can kill the Pershing. And if the Yag and the Pershing trade evenly, that should be game. Now, of course, I've already said it was game before with the sniper, so listening to me is not necessarily the smartest way. At least when it comes to whether something is or isn't game. And honestly, I mean, in general, like, I don't know what I'm talking about. I do these things to make myself feel better and make myself feel smart. I'd like to think that anyone who doesn't realize that the name of this channel is ironic is it's probably just a little bit tad bit slow, and that any insight that I quote unquote give during these games is 100% false and going to get you killed. Oof. I don't know what's going on now. The Pershing seems to have just caught the Yag. I don't understand. What?
What's going on now?
Full disclosure, Whiskey Jack is the one who posted this replay. I would have asked for everybody's files so I could delete them. Alright, I would have buried this game so far. I don't know how that Yag just died. He could have just kept driving this direction and he probably would have lived. He could have just kept driving in this direction, he probably would have lived. He could have, and this is really weird. He could have, listen, call me a philosopher on this one. He could have kept his frontal armor facing the front, and he would have lived. That's a good one, Whiskey. That was a good meme. And what are we left with? Will has... Does he have any call-ins left? He's got one call-in left. He has no teammates, so right now we are looking at about 50 pop on the field for the Allies. Very interested to see what the Axis have. So much so that I'm going to listen to my boy Shabtagus on this one, who has begged me, absolutely begged, for me to swap the sides sometimes. And I will take a look, just for a moment, for the sake of this end game, see what the Axis have. Rocky still has tons and tons of stuff left. That is not a good sign. Whiskey Jack has absolutely nothing left. Storm Trout has absolutely nothing left. So this is all up to Rocky. The Allies and the Axis actually have about the same amount of effective pop on the field. If Rocky just continues to push forward with his mass support weapons and mortar, he should be able to control the field and push the Allies off. But given that his pack guns are not covering one another, his machine guns are not covering one another, and his infantry are not covering one another, 3 pack guns, what is this one covering? Let's watch it. Oh yeah, this action's really starting to heat up. A lot of mobility going on here. Or is he getting desperate to probe for Rocky? And this is one of the worst situations you can get in the game, is when you're at the behest of a teammate who still has multiple call-ins left and 40 pop on the field, when you have 0, and you're not really seeing a lot of movement going on. I mean, this is honestly a travesty. If Rocky doesn't need this 17-pounder, which he doesn't, but if that's what he thinks he doesn't, He should be bringing all 3 pack guns, laying them over here, really quickly, just attack move this 17 pounder, and then push. Push, 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 push. Get in there. Alright, that's enough of getting to see what the Axis have. Honestly, I've spoiled the game for us. I think we could have had some really quality surprise moments this game where I would have said something along the lines of, oh my gosh, it seems like the Axis are really running out of stuff here. Storm Shroud barely engaging, Rocky's barely engaging, and this is probably their last pack gun, and then boom, another 2 pack guns show up out of nowhere. There's pack gun number 1. The one thing Rocky has to worry about is that this Pershing runs over all of his machine guns. And let's pretend that, oh, here's that second pack gun coming in. You, as an allied player, you would have spotted that. I'm certain Stuart or Cologne has called it out. Oh, it's coming. That was from Whiskey. Was that always from Whiskey? Huh.
Enemy unit down.
And from the Allied support, or sorry, from the Allied perspective, the support weapon creep has been very healthy by the Axis. Now, we of course know the Axis have a lot more support weapons to creep, and that this actually is a pretty ineffective and slow amount of creep going on.
Infantry squad
But
reporting casualties.
from the Allied perspective, this is a pretty solid strangle that the Axis are setting up here. Where did these boys come from? Okay, a walking wounded squad. Considering this has been sitting here all game, I'm a little surprised that the Axis haven't deleted it. They were just kind of sitting around here. They very easily could have made their way over. Oh, shoot. Okay. Interesting. Pack on pack action. So the real question becomes that if this is what we have to expect out of the last of this game, what is it that Rocky's holding on to? Because it's possible the way that Rocky is currently playing with his support weapons, and the fact that Will just brought on a Sherman, that that Will could defeat the remaining Axis support weapons on the field. This is a possibility. But if Rocky still has a big ticket item left, or even just like a Geschützwagen, one Geschützwagen plus a pack should be enough to win this game, actually. This Pershing is very worn and torn. Yep, there goes the Pershing just from a single pack shot and a few shots from this 2-pounder.
Pershing lost enemy action. Pershing lost.
It's hard for me to give any insight, actually, now that I know what the Allies have left. I'm sorry, what the Axis have left. There's nothing, in my opinion, the Allies can do to win this game. It's all up to the Axis. If the Axis keeps their support weapons and whatever other stuff they have remaining separated, then the Allies are going to win. If the Axis just get their few guns left together, the Axis are going to win. It's all about tracking down this one Sherman and killing him. And I don't think Rocky's put this together. I don't think he realizes how great of a position he's in. He can single-handedly win or lose this game based off of his play. Does he have stuff left? Yeah, he still has a call-in, so he must be sitting at 40 pop. There's a mortar. I mean, if Rocky has a hard time killing the Sherman, these Volksgrenadiers alone, they're gonna. Where are they going? Just get in there and kill. Kill.
Enemy
No,
unit
I don't like
down.
this. I don't. This is hard. I shouldn't have swapped over. I'm not breaking my rules again. This has actually made this less interesting, because I know how easy of a time Rocky should be having just going and wiping out the last remaining Allied stuff. Let's watch him. That's probably the issue. That's what's making this so hard. Oh. Alright, 2 pack guns. Some capping units. Well, the trap was really good. Oh, man. Okay, so his patience did reward him in getting most of that Sherman's health removed. The problem with his patience is that he's hemorrhaging territory, and it wouldn't be out of the realm of reason to suggest that had the Allies had even a single extra unit left, they could have won this game simply due to Rocky's lack of initiative with his remaining units. I think he got a little bit too scared of what the Allies possibly could have, that he allowed the Allies' remaining stuff to just walk all over him. These pack guns need to stay together. You can't. This is an issue for anyone watching. Keep your stuff together. This MG could be saving this pack gun right now if you kept it together. These infantry should probably be with the pack guns. This MG does not need to be in an MG nest that is literally on fire. I mean, what are you, torturing your guys? And if you still have stuff left in this situation, just decrew the Nebelwerfer. That'll give you 7 pop. Call in whatever it is, especially if it's bikes. The best call-in in the game is bikes in a moment like this. This is an issue of search and destroy. This is not an issue of do you have enough stuff. It's about finding the enemy more than it is about having the right tools to kill him. I don't know what I'm watching.
You do not know what pain is yet.
Why are you not moving your stuff?
You will learn.
This is when I say that Whiskey Jack is actually kind of an asshole, because he knows exactly what he did. He watched this. He's on the Axis team. He knows he uploaded a shoutcast that ends like this. This is torture. I thought it was decloaked for a second. Fooled myself. There is an MG in this building. I just want to confirm with the viewer that there is an MG in this building. I know many people right now are questioning, is that actually an MG42? Or are my eyes deceiving me? There goes Stormtrout. I didn't even realize Stormtrout had that unit running around. He was trying to save the game. A little bit. Okay. There is an MG42 in this emplacement as well. Again, I know many people have, they've been actually live tweeting. Is that actually an MG42 in that building, in that emplacement? Because that could be big. That could really change this game. The answer may surprise you. It's yes. It could change this game. You're absolutely right, live tweeters.
We're taking fire!
Right? So because Rocky hemorrhaged territory so bad, he's actually not able to call in the last units that he has. If he would just decrew the Nebelwerfer, he could call in whatever it is. I hope he understands the Nebelwerfer is going to do literally nothing for him. Because it... So anyways, for all of you viewers who are still tuned in, the question becomes why? What are you hoping to get out of this? I can tell you what I was hoping to get out of this, and I got it. It was the first 40 minutes of this game. It was a pretty good game. Then there was the last 20 minutes, and I have to say, a little inconsistent. Is that another set of walking wounded? Jesus Christ. Alright. Tell you what. Why don't I try and fill this silence with what's going on here? basically, I think that Rocky is completely paralyzed by the idea of getting overwhelmed. And the reason why he's paralyzed by it is because he has done zero probing into what Will has. He's left his units sitting there waiting for the enemy to come to him. And that worked out really, really, really well when it came to this location where the two pack guns who were sitting there for ages finally got 5 shots off. I believe it was 5 shots onto the Sherman. So obviously this that kind of strategy has its benefit. But, and I'm going to use a term here that might be a little almost malicious, but this is embarrassing because, you know, you can't just always expect your enemy to walk into you. And that's actually what's happening here. The Allies were holding, or sorry, had captured all this land with half the stuff Rocky has because he didn't want to move any of his units. Now the Allies have made their only move. Thank God for these walking wounded. Oh, and the Nebelwerfer. And I just want to be clear. The Nebelwerfer is not the reason why this push didn't work. The Nebelwerfer is a symptom of the push not working. Because this push was impossible to work because Rocky just has too much stuff left. You know, the 2 best players in the mod cannot beat the 3 worst players in the mod if it's a 2v3. Because it doesn't really matter if you have significantly better micro, better unit composition. If the enemy just has 40 more pop than you, as long as they literally don't just run it into your machine guns, you're gonna lose. You might actually be able to get a pretty damn good game out of it, but you're gonna have to do twice as much killing with both players. You're gonna have to hope that the enemy makes a mistake every single engagement. Worth testing, but that's why that last push didn't fail. If the Allies, again, if they had 1 unit left, I think 1 real meaty set of lads, a squad of just 4 mechanized with Thompsons, or maybe a Bren Button squad, the Allies probably could have won this game. Did we ever get to see what it was Rocky had left? No, I think he never called it on, whatever it was. Oh, another Volksgrenadier and a MG42. I'm never doing this again.